Greetings, greetings, greetings. Welcome and come on in. It is another edition of Revolutionary Hoodoo, New Orleans Voodoo Secrets and Recipes. Please do join me here live on screen at Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Periscope, Earthcam. You can also join me on Blog Talk Radio by way of area code 845-277-9143, 845-277-9143. Do press the number 1 on your telephone keypad, and I will be more than happy to unmute your mic and bring you into the conversation. All is a blessing. All is a blessing. This Monday, December 20th. Come on in. Come on in. All
Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Blog Talk Radio.
Greetings and salutations, beloved. Welcome, Danette Gibbs. Welcome, beloved. Come on in. Come on in. The fire is hot. The water is a-boiling. It's time to put somebody in this pot. Come on in. Come on in. Greetings and salutations, one and all. It is December 20, 2021. Come on in. Welcome this Wellness Check-In Monday. Come on in, come on in.
Come back home to Africa. She's calling your name to win. Come back home to Africa. The fatted calf and golden rings are waiting for you once again. Coming back to you.
I'm longing for my family, coming back to you. Greetings, Jennifer Anderson. Welcome, beloved. Greetings, Alexis Williams. Thank you kindly. Come on in, Nina Lloyd. Come on in. All is a blessing. Welcome.
Come back home to Africa.
This Monday, December 20, 2021. Come on in.
Come back home to Africa. The fatted calf and golden rings are waiting for you once again. Coming back to you. I'm longing for my family.
Coming back to you.
Out of bondage now.
Greetings and salutations. Welcome. Come on in. Greetings. Come on in. Welcome. Come on in. Greetings, Lateria Daniels. Peace and blessings, beloved, to you and yours as well. Australia, Barrier. Welcome, beloved. Alafia, Alafia. Come on in. Welcome, welcome. Eshu Alekwana Kosi Were, Awo Onlo Uto Ni Iwo, Ada Afan Bo Osi, O Batala Mi Ita Ni Ebo Onilio Abani Shu. Eshu is the respected elder who flogs, confronts, and uncovers fools. That one versed in mysteries uses truth to own you. He causes scatter to feed poverty. Obatala shakes rascals to have sacrifice. The owner of warnings is the one who is Eshu. Aboru, Aboye, Aboshishe, Ashe. May our Ebo reach our room. May our Ebo be accepted. May our Ebo allow what we desire to come to pass. And so we say Ashe. Divine, all blessed greetings and salutations. Happy holidays this Monday, December 20, 2021. And you are now listening live with the Divine Prince, Pan-African Spiritualist, Practitioner, Author, and Advisor, Elagun Oloye Hoodoo Obeah Bokur, sharing with you in all things spiritual, mystical, metaphysical, cosmic, universal, evolutionary, revolutionary, healing, and holistic from a Pan-African Hoodoo world spiritualist perspective. Understanding that all is truly and indeed a blessing. If you can just see beyond the veils, for it is indeed all just an illusion and a test, and one of the greatest divine mysteries of this life cycle. This is my constant prayer, my mantra, affirmation, reverberation, my reiteration, and it is my ever-living reality. All is a blessing, is crucial to the very foundation of my inner standing, my teaching, my walk, my works along this divine, all blessed life path and journey. It is my demonstration. And it is how I, the Divine Prince, make sense out of all that we are challenged with here in our daily existence on Mother, Father, Earth. And it is my personal place of power and understanding. The place from where I begin, the place from where I realize and crystallize all my endeavors, understanding that I and I alone create and co-create my divine destiny, and I alone create and co-create my divine all-blessed reality. And so it is. Ashe. Greetings, beloved, again this Monday, December 20, 2021, and I am emanating and vibrating with you and for you now live, virtually, verbally, cosmically, audibly, quantum universally from this working temple of the house of the Divine Prince. Thai Potions, Hoodoo Central, in this legendary, historic, beautiful, and most enchanted city in America, New Orleans, Louisiana, the land of my ancestors and those who came before me along this Hoodoo Obeah life path and journey, passing down the great Obeah stick, along with the knowledge of the life-giving herbs, roots, plants, rituals, spirits, minerals, and indeed the legacy, the culture, the traditions, the history of our sacred stories. Please do stop now and like, follow, subscribe, and always participate on all platforms available to you. Invite a friend, invite a frenemy, understanding that all is a blessing. And before we move forward, that understanding the creation of sacred space is critical to all that we do and are and think and be in any present moment in time space. Understanding that spiritual knowledge and power lies in its efficacy, and its ability to produce and manifest powerful, reliable, tangible, lasting manifestation and results right here and right now in this most present moment in time space. All else is vanity, all else is ego, all else is an illusion. I often, at this date, at this time, in this season, over the years, talk about, you know, the winter solstice, the summer solstice, the changing of seasons, and indeed the holiday season that we are entering in, or now are well engrossed in, particularly in the Western world, and more specifically here in the Americas. And when we think about winter solstice and summer solstice, we are taught from a very um, north, northern hemispheric, Western Christian, Islamic, Judaic perspective about our universe and our position in the universe, our position on and within Mother Earth, our position in relationship to the moon, to the sun, to the stars, and indeed our relationship to weather. It's just a little bit nippy in New Orleans, Louisiana right now. It's a little bit more nippy than I would like it to be. I could have indeed stayed in Chicago for 40 and 50-degree highs, but I'm grateful, as we all are and should be and walk in humility and gratitude in our ability to protect and to prepare for, but to flow with nature. For indeed, weather is nature. And so we think about the changing of the seasons and our winter and summer solstice celebrations. And we don't quite find a similar dynamic in the southern hemisphere. Today is indeed the beginnings and the marking of winter for us in the north. But it's not the same in southern Africa. It's not the same in South America. It's not the same south of the equator. So I want to talk about our marking of time and season and change and preparation and our desire to have our work done. It takes me back to my grandmama and big mama's time and my great great grandparents' time, which I'm blessed to be able to recall and remember. And holidays were a big deal. Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, and it wasn't so much that the family was necessarily so Christian, or so religious in the marking of these days. But as I have always believed and understood, since the beginnings of the Middle Passage and the encapturing of our ancestors and bringing them into enslavement, utilizing coded talk, coded language, coded music, coded traditions and culture to mask an otherwise profound and much deeper meaning. I saw a post yesterday about the cakewalk, and it reminded me of how we mocked so called civilized society and culture, and the clothing and the classical music and dance style of our oppressor of the time, and mocked them with such artistic expertise that they didn't know that they were being mocked. And from that was born the cakewalk. And so we have always used coded language, coded culture, tradition, coded symbolism, coded belief and practices to not always synchronize or melt into. I think those are all, misnomers when it comes to our ability to navigate within a predominating culture and still maintain our connection to ourselves and to our roots. though it has not always been an easy task. It's probably no easier today than it has ever been. But I can remember the emphasis on the holidays and the saving for and the preparation of and the ritual around celebration. And don't remember outside of, maybe in the mid 70s, I can remember us uh, getting a little resources and, somebody in the family had a nice tree and nice house and, a huge spread. But even before, again, going back to the time of the Middle Passage, there is that using what was available to us and almost like magic, transforming that resource into something profound and acceptable and celebratory for us. So when we think about this winter solstice, this December 2021, let's also remember our place in the positioning of these traditions and these practices. Much like our over reliance on Western astrology, let's remember our place and position in timing in these practices and traditions. So December might be marked by Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, but for those who identify as pagans and spiritual practitioners and uh, secular, non religious folk, it's a time of year to celebrate Yule and the changing of seasons and the changing of a new sense of self awareness and self identity. It is a time for gathering and family and remembering ancestors and those who came before us. The holiday marks the winter solstice in the northern hemisphere. I believe this year it's tomorrow, December 21st, and celebrates the rebirth of the sun and beginning of winter. It is one of the oldest winter celebrations known. The winter solstice is the longest night and shortest day of the year. The Earth's axis tilts the furthest away from the sun at 23.5 degrees, giving all locations north of the equator less than 12 hours of daylight. This moment has been marked by mankind for centuries. In ancient Rome, the week long fest of Saturnalia honored the sun god Saturn. Our weekday, Saturday, honors the sun god Saturn. My godchildren, my initiates, and many of my clients are well aware of the difference between our lunar moon calendar that we adhere to and the uh, sun calendar that the Western world and Western religions have adopted. The Celts believed the sun stood for 12 days, making it necessary to light a log fire to conquer the darkness. During the Iron Age, the Celts and other ancient Europeans welcomed the winter solstice by feasting, merrymaking, and sacrificing animals. Today, modern pagans celebrate the holiday by lighting candles, throwing bonfires, hosting feasts, and decorating their homes. But I would say, too, modern religious folk, Christian, Judaic, um, Islamic, etc., also have so integrated these practices and these traditions and these symbols to where I believe many often forget where these traditions come from and presume them to be solely Judaic, solely Christian, solely Kwanzaa oriented, solely Islamic oriented, but indeed have come from our ancestors, all of our global ancestors. And indeed, here in the West, we have been greatly influenced by the move of the Jews, the Christians, and the Muslims. And they have too left a footprint Even in hoodoo, root work, conjure, we see a gumbo mix, an amalgamation, a syncretizing of symbols to where people aren't always clear or educated about the origin of some of these symbols and indeed practices. I would suggest that candle burning in general, as it relates to root work, conjure, uh, voodoo, Orisha work to some degree, all of these ATR based systems, indeed, have its roots in the idea of bringing light to darkness, keeping the darkness of the winter months, the colder months, the cloudier months, the rainy season away, for which our indigenous and aboriginal ancestors believed inhabited and held energy and spirit. Celebrating the rebirth of the sun can be seen in cultures throughout history, not just a seasonal change, but in our daily acknowledgement of the sun. Those who acknowledge Ori acknowledge the sun. Those who pray 5 times a day acknowledge their first prayer at the rising of the sun. And while these typically took place during the coldest, darkest days of the year, winter solstice traditions were celebrations that gave people hope that indeed sunny days lie ahead, divine manifestation and illumination indeed lie ahead. When we think about the sun god Ra, when we think about the sun disk, the solar disk, the Aten in Kemet in ancient Egypt, we are also seeing and feeling the message of personal, divine, godlike illumination. Again, incorporated, synchronized into, appropriated into the Christian symbols of the sun disk behind the head that I believe we now call auras, but they were once referred to by another name. It just slipped me in its religious context. That aura, that glow you see in the classic paintings of the said prophets. That isn't just some Da Vinci creation, but harkens the sun disk of Aten and the hands, divine hands reaching down to caress and embrace not only nature, but the nostril and the heads and the consciousness of humanity. Egyptians celebrated the return of Ra on a daily basis. Yoruba Ifa committed practitioners celebrate the rise of Ori on a daily basis. Ancient Greeks held a similar festival called Linnea. The Roman Empire held Saturnalia celebrations. Scandinavia, Norsemen called the holiday Yule. Families would light Yule logs where they would eat until the log burned out, which could take up to 12 days. And each spark was believed to represent a new pig or calf that would be born into the new year. We have a quite extensive traditional celebrated Yule burning, log burning tradition here in Louisiana along the Mississippi River that many families have acknowledged, for decades, centuries, perhaps, and it continues on in its modern context, but continues on. And so Germanic people would celebrate Winter Festival by honoring the pagan god Odin. Many believe he would fly through the night sky on a magical flying horse and determine who would be blessed or cursed in the coming year. Many decided to stay indoors, fearing Odin's wrath. So we cannot, even as practitioners of traditional African based and indigenous aboriginal based systems and traditions, we cannot ignore, overlook, be undereducated about the influence and subsequent merging of traditions across ethnicity, across race, across geographic location, that now blur lines of understanding when we don't do our homework, when we don't have archaeology, when we don't have book knowledge, when we don't have research and study under where these symbols come from. Originally, the Christian calendar focused on Easter. Did you know that? Originally, the Christian calendar focused on Easter and Easter alone. It was only in the 4th century that the church decided Jesus Christ's birthday should be celebrated December 25th. Since the Bible did not point to an exact date when Christ was even born, Pope Julius I chose December 25th. It's commonly believed that the church chose the date in an effort to replace the Roman Saturnalia with the Christian holiday. I would also like to beg to offer that we're considering a time where much of the indigenous world was not even considered in the choosing and establishing of these dates and holidays. So indeed, the African footprint, the South American footprint wasn't considered. The Aboriginal footprint in the Americas was not considered in the establishing of these dates and holidays and ceremonies. And so the symbolism gets lost when it's not important to talk about it. The symbolism gets lost when it's in competition with billions of dollars of commercial funding to get you to, spend, to the limits of your account, for these holidays. Often the symbolism of the holidays is superseded by the commercialization of the holidays, which is indeed a active and conscious machine designed to not just, if at all, commemorate anything sacred or holy, or even customary for that matter, other than the capitalistic notion of spending, and spending to excess, and spending in many cases to what we don't need. The one of the ideas or tenets, I should say, of Kwanzaa is the idea of presenting handmade, hand grown, create handcrafted items to sort of steer us away from the Western idea of gift giving and spending and over commercialized spending. And now that we have such a green conscious society, the waste associated thereof, with the killing of millions of trees, and then the recycling or lack thereof of recycling of the trees, excuse me, and the waste from the paper wrapper and the bottles and plastic and all the other stuff that is produced. We're making a concerted effort here in New Orleans to change the tradition of beads, plastic Mardi Gras and carnival beads that don't break down, that cannot be renewable, that only clog up the sewer system and end up in the belly of fish and in the water. So, we've talked about this in many references over the years on this show. The idea of the importance of tradition, culture, lineage, practice, acknowledging something a particular way, doing something a specific or particular way. But the fact that consistency exists in nature, but permanency does not. Again, consistency indeed exists in nature, but permanency does not. And so the things that we've come to rely on, I like to use the pandemic as a great example. Some of you are still waiting on things to return to normal. There is no returning to normal, beloved. We are now evolving a new normal. And so these celebrations, these symbols will continue to evolve with our knowledge, with our awareness. Um, of course, with research and archaeology, and of course with any new information that's brought in from outside our solar system, outside our present earth-bound realm of awareness and existence. So as the Christian celebration moved west, Harry, I always pronounce this name wrong, Yeide, a professor of religion at George Washington University, told National Geographic that the date had traditionally been used to celebrate the winter solstice because sort of available for conversion to the observance of, I'm sorry, before it became sort of the available conversion of the observance of Christmas. In the Western Church, the December date became the date for Christmas. Now, besides the date, Christian leaders found ways to relate the pagan holiday to the Christian one. This gave rise to an interesting play on words, Yiddy said, in several languages, not just in English. People have traditionally compared the rebirth of the sun with the rebirth of the sun god, all the way back to and even before ancient Egypt, the Mayan Empire, the Aztecs, the Olmecs, all associated the rebirth of the sun, the daily rebirthing of the sun, with the daily rebirthing of the Son of God. Christmas traditions, including dinner feast, gift giving, decorative wreaths, can be traced back to winter solstice rituals. For instance, for the Celtic Druids, mistletoe was a sacred plant called all heal, Heal, all heal. Priests would cut the plant from the tree, hold a feast, and sacrifice animals underneath it. Mistletoe was believed to cure illness, serve as an antidote for poisons, ensure fertility, and protect against witchcraft. Some people would hang it from their doors or rooms to offer goodwill to the visitors. Much like in Hoodoo and Conjure, we put a fresh wicker broom behind the front door every New Year's Eve to bring in the coming new year. Over the door or behind the door. There are two separate traditions, and I'll speak to that a little bit more later. Ancient Romans would decorate their homes with holly during winter solstice. Holly wreaths were given as gifts and used as decoration in public areas and in homes to honor the sun god Saturn. Ancient Celtics would have similar traditions. Many would plant holly in their homes as a form of protection, since the plants were believed to hold magical powers for the ability to survive the winter months. Rosemary has a magical ability to survive the winter months. And I'm learning that the stevia plant, the one you use for your sugar substitute, has the magical ability to be hardy enough to survive the winter months. Cold, freeze, chill. I think it's also important to people also always want to know, how do I read? How do I study? Yes, you have to read everything. You have to read a lot of things. So, for example, you would study astrology, astronomy. You might study cultural history as it relates to seasonal changes. But in this case, we would also have to study plants. And so, just the study of plant and plant usage based on culture or ethnic group or location can mask ideas about their belief in God, their belief in nature, their belief in magic that don't always show up in a simple search of any Orisha, Loa, religion, tradition, practice, people, or indeed culture. I also am reminded that many of the practices, particularly rooted in Western celebrations of Christmas and winter solstice, also come from poverty, and not just poverty, within people of color within our community. but just world cultural poverty, and it's sort of intersecting with these celebrations, these traditions, and then being resourceful about what's available to you. And so many of these, particularly Thanksgiving and Christmas herbs, also have other abilities to not only heal, antidotes to certain poisons, remedies, but to prevent pestilence, for example, to keep certain insects and certain rodents and other things out of your food supply or out of your garden or out of your housing or out of your body, for that matter. For the Wiccans and the Druids, Yule is one of the 8 solar holidays celebrated every year. And Wiccans see Yule as a time to spend with friends and family, exchange gifts, and honor the sun. Homes are decorated with red, green, and white decorations, colors that hark back to Druidic tradition. Some Wiccans, Druidic traditions. Let me say that again. Yes, Wiccan is drawn from Druidic traditions. People like to remove ethnicity from these practices, in order to further bastardize them and operate within them from a Western, ego-based, commercial-based, sort of usury-based context, without giving acknowledgement to the source of many of these traditions. And so Wiccans welcome the new solar year with light. Rituals can include meditating in darkness with lit candles, singing pagan carols, and lighting Yule logs, either in indoor fireplaces or outdoor bonfires. Wiccan priestess Selena Fox suggests decorating an evergreen wreath with holiday herbs and mounting it on the front door to celebrate the continuity of life. We know that our monthly lunar celebrations throughout the world often involve the bringing of light, lighting of bonfires or pyres or fireplace or fire pits, and indeed the usage of particular evergreen evergreen related plants. Evergreen trees can be decorated as well with decorations of our practices and traditions, throughout the spiritual diaspora. You can call it solstice, you can call it Christmas, you can call it Kwanzaa, you call it, whatever you will. My position is, be clear about what you're calling it. Be clear on the background of what you're calling it. Be clear on the symbolisms that we pull from, that we borrow from, that we appropriate, that we seek to try and syncretize as we continue to evolve as individuals, but also as families and communities, evolving practices and traditions, moving into the future. Druids typically celebrate the holiday at Stonehenge in England, but we, first centralize our celebrations at home, in your village, in your house, in your community, in your city, and then we seek to see the practices grow, as has Kwanzaa grown, in the 30 decades or more. Well, no, Kwanzaa was created, I believe, the year I was born. I think Dr. Kuringer created Kwanzaa in 1966. So we've had 54 years of Kwanzaa, maybe more universal awareness of Kwanzaa with the Black Power movement and the Soul 70s, and then the Material 80s allowed us to, buy and purchase, holiday decorations and holiday items and festive items that we maybe did not have in preceding decades. But these traditions, these practices continue to grow, to evolve. There's a similar celebration that takes place in Peru at the great, I think it's called Cerro del Gentil Pyramid in Peru, that acknowledges the changing of the seasons, ultimately the moving of the planetary positions and the earth, uh, when we think about the changing and transformation of seasons, much like we think about the changing and transformation of ourselves as unique gods and goddesses, as unique people and individuals. Greetings to everyone who I did not acknowledge in the last 20 minutes. Thank you, Gene Williams, for coming back with us. Thank you so much, Chef Boo G. You and your family, I certainly appreciate you. Beloved Tasha Harris, thank you, beloved. Thank you for being with us again. Greetings and salutations to you as well, Mrs. Jones. Greetings, Shamafia Rothschild. And yes, to all of my regulars, I'm grateful for you and your continued support and listenership. Indeed, your donations, your offerings of prayer and support and love, during our calamities, as well as during these festive seasons when we seek to acknowledge family. I pray that I am a part of your family as much as many of you are indeed a part of mine. Greetings, S. Marie. I certainly do appreciate you and yours. Welcome, Kayla, first time, uh, I believe, first time listener and viewer to the show. Welcome, welcome. Yes, change is not only normal, it's nature, ain't it, Shamafia? Change is nature. And it's that artificialness of humanity, and particularly modern Western plastic society that tries to seek permanence where permanence does not or cannot truly exist. And so there's always change, transformation, rebirth, renewal, replenishing, an opportunity to do things anew. And let's strive to not only mark the 90-day mark, the 30-day mark, the 6-month mark, the year mark, with our annual birthday celebrations and anniversaries, but let's remember to mark one moment in time. Let's indeed remember to celebrate and mark the last 15 minutes, that you've endured, the conditions of your work environment, and you didn't snap or go off, or you're an educator. Oh my goodness, in this 2022 TikTok environment where children are being challenged to go to school and commit acts of violence against the property and the teachers. Just count the 15 minutes that you still have your job and you are not arrested or haven't done something to sort of respond. Just we have to learn to first mark the day. Indeed, the day when we wake up, I mark the day. I don't care what the weather is. I don't care how I feel in my mind, my body, my spirit, my bank account, my resources, my scheduling time. Uh, I mark the day. I remember that the Black woman is God. The Black woman is God. The Black woman is God. I remember that the Great Mother is my mother. Therefore, I too am born God, just as I am born human. I was born a child, and indeed, we spiritually are born children, born babies, born infants, requiring growth and development. But indeed, we are all born God, born human, and have the opportunity with each rising to reconnect, to reconnect. Now, with modern society, working, scheduling, most of you get up to an alarm clock. Most of you don't get up at the rising of the sun. Most of you don't get up when the roosters crow. Many of you don't have a rooster to hear crow, depending on where you live in the world. But many of us still do. And many of us are blessed to live in still lesser polluted um, atmospheres, meaning we don't have quite as many city lights and artificial lighting to obscure our ability to see the sky, to see the Milky Way at night. Have you ever been out in the country and seen the sky at night, in a rural area, and seen the sky at any time of the day or night? Just a different sense of clarity. So we operate on artificial schedules, artificial timing, artificial systems, which can easily confuse our sense of spiritual timing, personal timing. And so, just as many sacred books suggest that, our 60-minute hour, could be a 60,000 year time span for God. A second could be 1,000 years for the spirit realm. Indeed, each moment is a moment to acknowledge our divinity. Each day, and each sun rising, and each lunar rising is an opportunity to acknowledge who we are as gods, as divinity, as powerful co-creators in the universe. So I implore you, I beg of you, in all of your shopping and spending and entertainment and fun having and ass kissing and and placating, don't forget yourself. Don't forget yourself. Don't forget the ancestors whose shoulders upon which we now stand and have our very being. Don't forget your own head, your own God consciousness, your own Christ consciousness, and your ability to reset and renew, not just seasonally, not just with the new year, but with the new day, with the new week, with the new opportunity, with the new moment in time space. I am indeed grateful, and it's for that reason that I just can't do a 2 hour show. I'm indeed grateful for those who are doing the work. Our schedules are filling and filling quickly. Many people just are not going to end the year without having their work done. Many people are just not going to end the year without their cleansing and without their spiritual baths and without their divination and Odu, for the coming year. We do know that Benin, Togo, um, will also have their annual Voodoo festival in January, and there's often a divination that's done there that that indeed resonates throughout the um, Voodoo world. Nonetheless, we know the New Year in Ifa is in June, and so there's an annual Odu that's typically done for the excuse excuse me, for the nation, the community that is Ifa authentically, whether it be Pan African diasporic or in Nigeria. But then it's also done in Lucome in Cuba and Kendable in Brazil, and then in many houses, um, a Odu is done for the year, and then for individuals whose heads are within that house, families that are within that house. So my schedule is quickly filling. Listen, as you just heard, it is pointless to call me. Listen, I'm being in all peace and loving and professionalism. I just can't. I just can't. And there are people right here in this room that'll tell you the phone rings all day and all night. I just can't. And if I took the time to answer every question and every call, it would take more than the 24 hours in a day that we have the opportunity to fulfill. And even then, if I could, there would be that individual that would say, "Oh, I misunderstood. I misheard you. I wrote it down wrong. I lost the piece of paper that I wrote it on. And so it's just much more convenient for me and you to pop it into your email. And so you can pull it up on your device wherever you are and read it and reread it and have clarity, but I appreciate you reaching out to me by email. DivinePrince, DivinePrince, DivinePrince at houseofthedivineprince.com. My website does have a contact form. So if you click that contact form on my website, that and fill that out, it actually ends up in my email. So again, another roadblock that I've already gotten out of your way for those of you who seem to have so many issues with the email. Okay. And I don't use Cash App or Vimeo or any other cash application, only PayPal. And my friends and followers on Instagram know exactly why. My profile is duplicated, I don't know, 5 times a week, sometimes on the minimum. So I'm actively, again, fighting for verification on all platforms. But if it's misspelled wrong, beloved, it's not me. It's not me. And most certainly, if I communicated a reading or a service to you in Instagram or Facebook, that ain't me. That ain't me. Ask Nina Lloyd. Ask Danette Gibbs. Okay, these are regulars. Ask Shamafia. Now, for people that I know, like a Shamafia or Danette Gibbs, and I've had a phone conversation with you, yeah, we'll shoot the breeze. Hey, how you doing? What's going on? How the mom and them? But I won't even have that conversation with total strangers. You all do realize that often leads to a fraud, right? For example, they're doing it in Facebook. Hey, how you doing? I haven't talked to you in a while. And it's somebody from your list, usually someone from your list who's not very active in social media. So you lose track of, are they really there or not? Because they're usually inactive. These are the profiles that they choose. And once you engage, which most Westerners will, if you say, how you doing, most Westerners are going to respond. If you say good morning, most Westerners are going to respond to that. Most people who work in the office building, in the school system, and in most American families respond to that. That's why most times my response is always a blessing. Always a blessing, because I know the artificialness of that dialogue. Okay, you don't care how I'm doing. And if you did know how I was doing, you ain't trying to help me in my doing. You just want to hear the information. And a lot of times we don't want to hear the information. So these frauds will often start with that level of conversation. And then the next thing is, oh, but did you hear about the Christmas grants that they're giving out in your community? No, why did five hands just go up? Why did 50 hands just go up in social media? Because you know exactly what I'm talking about. Did you hear about the grant money they're giving away? That's a fraud, beloved, if you didn't already know. And the next thing is they're going to help to capture your information and get you somewhere, if not your identity. Because some of you think, well, I ain't got no bank account, I ain't got no money. Okay, but you got an identity that can then be utilized in other countries to commit other acts of fraud and crimes. So I do not communicate in social media. I don't. I won't communicate it with you in an instant message. I will not. And I will pop in a quick copy and paste. I accept questions, comments, requests by way of email only. Because your IP address, that's a whole nother legality, honey. That email is a whole nother legality. So I know it's you, you know it's me, and it ain't no drama. It's no drama that way. So please, I'm filling up. In fact, I got appointments here at the house today. Be COVID ready. Handle your business, okay? Bring your mask along with your offerings and your donations. Bring your mask and know that, man, we're partying all week. We're celebrating all week. We're in ceremony all week. we're in divination and ritual all week. So don't be angry with me. Don't be cross if I'm not here at noon Tuesday. Please forgive me. Just know that I'm working. I'm available. I certainly will be popping in new material in social media. I should have a trailer for you soon as it relates to our most recent filming project. So I'm looking forward to it. Thank you, Shamafia. Yeah, I block anyone who contacts me about a reading just like you do. When the fake priests show up in your box and you block them about a reading, I do the same thing when the client or possible fake client shows up in my social media inbox about a reading, because I do business by email. By email. I won't do it on the phone. I won't do it in social media, only by email. So I appreciate those who have no problem with it, follow through with it, have never had an issue with it. Um, for those of you who are still just trying to hold on to, 1960, 1970, those days are gone, beloved. Get used to the technology. Get used to the Jetson era. We are fully into the Jetson era now. We'll have a flying car probably in the next two to 5 years. We will have regular flying cars. We will certainly have drones that will have the ability to pick up not just heavy packages, but people of some sort. So, yeah, the future is now. The future is here. The future is in us, and our ability to create and recreate a reality that mirrors our best interests begins first in the spirit realm. So don't neglect your spirit work for all of your material work. Get your holiday cooking and shopping and card mailing and celebratory processes. Get that done. But don't listen. Don't come to me in January, February, talking about you want to now look at how you should have went into January and February. Let's not do that. Let's not do that. But listen, I certainly appreciated the hour and the time. I've got to move forward. I've got guests already waiting here at the house. And so I appreciate you, beloved. I appreciate you and yours, your family, your mom and them, grandma, auntie, uncle. I'm talking about real folks out there listening who know who I'm talking about. Client families, client community. I'm grateful for you. Indeed, I am. And I look forward to us moving forward in a most prosperous and beneficial way with manifestation here and now in these remaining days of 2021, and most certainly those coming days of 2022 and 23 and the beyond. And I look forward to connecting with you again here at high noon, U.S. Central Standard Time on blogtalkradio.com/the-divine-prince. Most certainly on youtube.com/Voodoo Tye, VOODOOTYE. You can always visit me in archive 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at your leisure and convenience. And I look forward to meeting you here again. All is a blessing. Looking forward. Ashe, Asheo, and Ashe.
Congo Square. The Omus Indians prepared this place